what's up, good people? It's your host, Deacon Gano. Welcome to another FIREDUP KC show. And again, this is the show that brings you the top leaders in KC to talk about the most important matters at hand. And today, I got two great leaders here joining me. First of all, I have an awesome lady, a mentor. She is one of the leading. She actually was on the Ingram magazine from one of the top people. So I want to make welcome. She was also the director of policy for the office of mayor from about, I think it was from 2014 to 2019. She was the director of policy and research for the Civil Council of Greater Kansas City. And now she is the director of policy and strategic initiatives for Health Forward Foundation. Make welcome, Miss McClain Macklin.
Good morning.
Welcome to the
Thank
show.
You.
Welcome to the
Thank
show. You. It's an honor to have a legend on my show today.
Please.
Every time I'm always like, Mama made it. Let's bring on our next guest. He was the project manager for the and development finance division for the city of Kansas City, and now he is the president of AltCap. Let's make welcome Mr. Ruben Alonso. I wish I had some
music. Yeah, like some intro music, man.
drum roll, man.
Yeah.
I'm excited and honored to have, man, top people in KC. I'm just like, every time I call my mom, like, Mom, you know, I don't have a lot of money right now, but I know a lot of top people in KC. So, hey, I'm excited to have you guys. Welcome to
It's
the
who
show.
you know, Zeke.
Without further ado, Mrs. So Mrs. McClain, can you give us a little bio about yourself and tell people who's here today? Because I know I've been, so honestly, let me not be weird, but I have been looking at your profile a lot. Everything you do, you've just been from just going top to top. So I'm honored to have you here today. Just give a little bio about yourself.
Sure. So I am honored that you think so highly of me. I hope I can live up to your expectations and the expectations that you've set for your audience. But first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me on, because I've been a fan of yours as well, and watching the work that you're doing as a college student. I'm amazed at the interest that you've already shown in your community. So thank you. So McClain Bryant Macklin, I am from Kansas City. I've lived all over the region, but primarily in KCK and in Kansas City, Missouri. So I am a child of this community. And even though I went away for law school and undergraduate and graduate school, you know, I came back because I'm vested here and I want to invest here. And so that has been my work. I started at a law firm, but that firm really nurtured my interest in politics and policy. And it was because of the support of the firm that I started my career with that I developed a relationship with Sly James. He was the first Black partner at that firm. And when he decided to run for mayor, I jumped on board immediately and made it my mission to connect him and his agenda to the young professionals in the city, to make sure that our needs are addressed in terms of educating our own children, a quality of life that would attract and retain young talent in Kansas City. And so I soon thereafter left the law firm to work for Mayor James full-time as his policy director, after having worked with him as his appointee to the Parks Board and on his transition team. But I just really believed in the vision that he had for the city and wanted to help to both frame and execute that. So that was largely my role as its policy director, but also to make sure that what was happening in the city had an equity lens put on it. And so I left, not because I wanted to, because I had to. We were nearing the end of his administration, and with term limits, you know, it is what it is. And so fortunately, a position at the Civic Council was available. And the Civic Council is a little known, uberly powerful organization in the region. It's a membership organization of the CEOs of the largest employers in the region. So you have to bring in a boatload of money every year and have a ton of employees to even qualify for an invitation to membership. And it's been the business community's way of impacting public policy since its founding in the 1960s. And as you could probably guess, it's not the most historically diverse organization, but In the last few years, there's been a realization and an acceptance of the fact that if all segments of our community aren't thriving, if there are any segments that are lagging, then we aren't maximizing our potential as a region. And so there's been a concerted effort to help to uplift marginalized communities. And so that was largely the work that I was brought on to lead, in addition to the more broader policy agenda advocacy for the organization. So I was at the Civic Council and really enjoying the work that I was doing. And then COVID hit. And that just coincided with the helm of one of our most active and well-funded foundations being taken over by a Black woman, which, you know, how many Black female CEOs are there in Kansas City, let alone, you know, outside of Kansas City? So it provided a unique opportunity for me to focus on health equity at a critical time, and under a unique leadership that shares the vision and heart that I myself have. So here I am at Health Forward Foundation, focusing on the social determinants of health and health equity and access to health. And so that's a little bit about me.
Yeah. Wow. Welcome to the show. A great honor to have you here today. Mr. Ruben, give us a little bit bio about yourself and let people know who we have here today.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, thanks for having me, Zeke. And hey, just so you know, I follow McClain too as well. I mean, you know, wherever McClain is, like she's at the cutting edge of like politics, policy, and business. She didn't even talk about her entrepreneurial experience, which I'd love for her to share about that a little bit too. But yeah, a little bit about me. So I'm the president of AltCap. We're a community development financial institution. We've been around for a little over 12 years, very focused on increasing the flow of capital to communities and businesses that are underserved or overlooked by kind of mainstream finance. So over the last 4 or 5 months, it's been pretty intense. I mean, really, our role has been to provide a financial lifeline to the small business community during this economic disruption caused by COVID. But that's, you know, the role that we're happy to play, and essentially, you know, have been playing in terms of, you know, increasing that access to capital to small businesses that have historically been, you know, again, overlooked or underserved by traditional financial institutions. So AltCap very much is a kind of very innovative, versatile organization in terms of how we deliver capital. But our focus is the region. So working on both sides of the state line to really just support small business investments and business investments in the region. We also are very much involved through a couple of sister organizations that we have, Community Capital Fund, which focuses on neighborhood community capacity building. And then we have a company called Equity Squared that's very involved in impact investing and opportunity zone investing, and have to, you know, talk a little bit more about that later. But yeah, just really proud to be part of an organization that's doing its part to address some of the disparities that we have in our communities in terms of access to capital, entrepreneurship, and really trying to use entrepreneurship as an economic empowerment tool for communities and people living in the region.
Wow. For those of you who listen who don't know, I have two pillars of Kansas City here today. I have the policy and I have the finance here. So I got the money and the power all together in one place. So it's an honor. Mr. McClain, I want to ask you this. When did you realize that there is an income gap or an equity gap when it comes to Kansas City, when it comes to property ownership, or when it comes to income ownership? Because for me personally, it was me taking a class, an architecture class that talked about redlining. And when I learned about that, that has been the epiphany that I had, is that, oh, that's the reason why this is so. Was there a personal story for you that introduced you to that concept, like, yo, I need to help my community out? Or how did you come about that realization?
It's something that I've been aware of for a long time. And I think it's because I was kind of raised in this work. My dad ran an organization called Freedom Incorporated for a long time, and we were involved all throughout my life. And so I was aware of the issues that impacted the Black community and how difficult it was to advocate or see any movement on those issues, and the importance of having representatives in our elected bodies to help to move those issues forward. You know, it was readily apparent to me that, you know, because my dad was a lawyer, that we had a lot more than a lot of other Black families. And, you know, the truth dividing line, you know, when I was younger, I described it as that wall that Roger Rabbit crashed through. And on the black and white, gray and gloomy side, that's Easter truth. And you crash through, and all of a sudden, you get into Brookside, and the sun is shining, and it's that visual is an accurate depiction of the feeling that you get when you cross over truths. And it's less dark today, but during my childhood, it was a blatant disparity in the income and opportunities and just quality of life that exists in our city.
Mr. Ruben, what is your experience that introduced you to the mindset that you have today?
Yeah, you know, I think just a lot of the work that I've been doing here in Kansas City. I mean, Kansas City is still a very kind of segregated city economically, socially, and you know, as part of leading an organization that's really trying to kind of bridge those gaps. You know, truth, like McClain said, has been this just very kind of tangible, you know, line in our community. But you know, I think there's hope in what's been accomplished over the last, I think few years. Certainly our activity on Troost, I think, you know, we're hoping to kind of create a uniting line along Troost, just with the investment that we're making along Troost on real estate development, you know, businesses. You know, we've put about $40 million into projects and investments along Troost, and you're starting to see the positive impact of that, and how we're starting to blur that line, and hopefully can continue to keep you know, bringing this community together. But it takes a lot of actors to do that. It's not, you know, we're just a small part. But to us, I mean, I think, you know, we're not a social justice organization, but we're definitely an economic justice, and that is a huge part of you know, how we're going to bring this community together.
For me as a student who is trying to learn, who's trying to be a sponge and get information, Ruben, what are some specific issues that you think that are important for people to understand that you are trying to solve, or some things you think that needs more attention but no one is paying attention to?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly in our work, I think the history of redlining, you know, why segregation, you know, still kind of exists in a lot of ways, and how we're, as I said, economic and socially segregated. I mean, I think really appreciating, understanding that history, and how it still, you know, can be perpetuated in a lot of ways, whether, you know, implicit or explicitly. And that's, you know, that's what kind of, I think, drives our mission and our you know, our purpose, is just to start to kind of change people's minds about, again, you know, lending in, you know, east of Troost. You know, we work with a lot of banks that, you know, still probably, you know, look at east of Troost very differently, and whether they realize it or not, are still probably redlining. So you know, for me, I think, you know, this community understanding more of that history, I think will help actually, you know, find solutions to again, how we can kind of address some of those long-term historical, you know, policies and decisions that were made that are still impacting Kansas City as a community.
Yeah. For you, McClain, coming up and, you know, being in policy and being able to learn the different things also, what are some specific issues that you've seen that you think needs some light into it and needs some solutions into it, but no one is really talking about this thing?
Yeah, gosh, there are so many. the issue that I'm most singularly focused on right now is access to healthcare. And so we're deeply involved in efforts to expand Medicaid in the state. Some 36,000 Black people are positioned to benefit from Medicaid expansion, 230,000 residents statewide. And Medicaid expansion would go a long way to reducing the health disparities that we see in terms of life expectancy in the Black community, in terms of morbidity to preventable diseases. And so that's what we are singularly focused on up until the August 4th election. Aside from that, and related to that really, is digital equity, something that I worked on in the mayor's office and am working on now, even worked on at the Civic Council. COVID, I think, really shined a light on the importance of connectivity to high-speed broadband, and how that is an essential need for residents, particularly in this working from home, schooling from home, telemedicine, even consuming from home environment. And without that connectivity, you just can't participate in the 21st century economy. And I think that for those of us who are connected to broadband, we kind of take it for granted, and think that, so long as, someone has a low speed, low cap connectivity on their cell phone, that they'll be all right. And we're learning that that's not the case. So I think really, because health equity is a result of what we call the social determinants of health, which is everything from the ability to accumulate wealth and access to capital, to healthy housing and transportation options, and just the gamut of policy. And digital equity sort of is kind of like one kind of permeates out into everything else, and the other is kind of like the result of everything else. And I would say digital equity is the one that permeates out into everything else, that if you don't have access to broadband, you can't otherwise have a good quality of life. So I would say those two things are, in my mind, critically important today.
Yeah, Zeke, I mean, that's a great point, McClain. I mean, access is so important to everything that, we are as a society, in terms of just how we are successful. And, we had, systems in place for so long that denied access, and whether, again, it was education or capital or health or technology. And I see that as, the priority right now is how do we make that access to all those things equitable. For us, we focus on access to capital. That's a big deal, but access to health, to good schools, to education, to technology. I mean, all that has just been highlighted with what we've been going through the last 4 years, and in a lot of ways exacerbated with the COVID. But I think that point that McClain made about access, I mean, that's what it's all about now.
I think it's just getting a door. If someone can get in the door, they can have access to the food. If the door is not open for the people to get in, they don't even know what you have on the inside. I think access is key. Now, coming to 2020 being the year that they call it the year of humanity, where there's like a whole lot of things coming out every single month. We don't even know what's coming up next. I'm talking about the incident of George Floyd happened and the protests happening around the country. There's been this discussion of some people are saying it's too much protest, it's too less protest. Some people are saying it's a political movement. It's not a political movement. What are you guys to start on the protest? Is the protest working, or are there some other things we should also be doing at the same time as protesting?
So I'll start. I think that the protests are a necessary piece of the solution making. That, without the protests, we likely would not have gotten the attention of those in power that need to start making some different decisions. And that just is what it is. I mean, I'm not condoning violence on either side, but putting myself, as a Black person, I was going to say putting myself into the shoes, but as a Black woman, the frustration is real. And to anyone who can be empathetic and put yourself into the shoes of somebody else, I mean, it should be easy to understand why those that feel powerless exert their right to protest, to vocalize and demonstrate their feelings and to bring about change. Because these are folks that feel as though they have no other recourse, that they have been invisible into the power structure. And so this is a way to get the attention that these issues deserve. But like I said, it's a piece. And the policy piece is also a necessary piece, and it's also the sustaining piece. And so, you know, while we've got the attention of decision makers, we also need to be putting forth thoughtful policies that will bring about greater equity in Kansas City and beyond, that will lessen the need for protests. Because if we had an equitable and fair society, if our criminal justice system was fair, if there was, you know, a value placed on Black lives and Black livelihoods, then there would not be reason to protest.
Yeah. I mean, I think the process have definitely amplified some voices, but I think I'm a little bit influenced just, you know, from what I hear from small businesses. And yeah, I think a lot of people appreciate the reason why people are protesting, but you know, it definitely impacts, I think, a lot of, you know, how, or influences how, you know, a business can operate or how we can move on. At some point, I mean, we got to do the hard work, like McClain said, of, you know, making these policies that are hopefully addressing what people are protesting about. We can't just continue to keep protesting. But yeah, I think it's definitely the piece, you know, that hopefully starts a process, you know, to address these really challenging issues. But, you know, I think about my dad, who, you know, he lived during the 60s, and, you know, he was in Newark when they were protesting, and there were some pretty violent protests in Newark. And, you know, a lot of Newark, which was a thriving, you know, commercial city, a lot of Newark didn't come back from that. And that's what I think I fear, especially when you have COVID going on and all this disruption. You know, what's going to happen to these small businesses that you know, create jobs for a lot of communities and provide goods and services to communities.
Yeah. I think the thing that is most prevalent in this time is the conversation that's been coming up, the conversation of equity, of being able to create a space where everyone has the same opportunity and the same chance to succeed. I want to ask you guys, knowing that you guys are fully invested in making sure that the equity goes into either the policy or the financial side of things. What are some steps you guys are doing to push the needle when it comes to equity in the workplace or in decision making? If you can take a stab at it.
Sure. So one thing that we've been advancing recently at Health Forward is the paid leave practices of many of these employers. And it's another thing that COVID has shown the light on, that has been a pre-existing issue and cause for disparity in Kansas City and, you know, around the country for a long time. And, you know, without the ability to take paid time off to go see a doctor, folks are going to work sick and risking their own health and the health of those around them. And so, you know, higher paid positions, salaried positions, or, you know, it somewhat varies with the employer as well, have the luxury and the peace of mind and the reduced stress level that comes with paid time off. But then there are those essential frontline workers and lower wage job holders that don't. And it lends itself to poor health outcomes, but it also lends itself to poor health or outcomes generally across the board.
Ruben.
Yeah, you know, we as an organization, and we've definitely tried to implement policies that, yeah, I think provide equitable opportunities for employees and on the paid leave part. I mean, um, we have paid maternity leave, so I mean, I think we're trying to make sure that we're welcoming, accommodating workplace for all of our employees. Definitely have flexible PTO and things like that, which I think are big, can be big, have a big impact on whether someone can be successful in your company. But kind of to expand on the equity issue, I mean, for us, as an organization, equity is just a big part of what we do in terms of that, equitable access to capital. So it's just kind of built into, I think, our DNA and just our culture. And as an organization, we try to be equitable in terms of just how we operate, but also, how that, fits into, our mission, our purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Zeke, I just want to kind of piggyback on what Ruben said, because part of what he does, what's so important about what he does is that he's affording people, by financing their business ventures, he's affording people self-determination, because they can then start their own business and then employ employment practices that are more sensitive to, people that are just starting their careers, or just more socially conscious businesses, which startups and small businesses tend to be.
Yeah, because I mean, because I've seen you at the whole hub events that you are support a lot, and I think there's all those organizations are needed in the Black community to help boost people who have ideas. Now I want to ask this, because I know that in every industry there's always challenges, there's always things that you have to face to be able to accomplish what you're doing. What are some challenges that you guys are facing with the work you're doing right now in trying to, bring equity or bring finance into the industry?
Yeah, the challenge for me is, I struggle with, and I have my doubts, although I remain hopeful that those that are in positions of power and are privileged recognize that they are in positions of power and privilege, and do something with it in terms of exercising it to help others, but also that they are willing to share it with others, because absent that, nothing's really going to change. And just hoping that those that are in power and of privilege realize that there's enough to go around, that power and privilege has been denied to marginalize segments of our population, and they make a focused, intentional effort to do something about it, even if it means there might be a little less for themselves. Recognize that we're all better when we as a whole are better, and as individuals are better. So that's the challenge. I mean, I think that there's going to be a lot of education and self-reckoning, self-awareness, and acceptance that you have a part to play in the solution making. That's kind of going to be a long-term and kind of painful effort.
Yeah, I think there's a generational aspect to that too, McClain. I mean, in terms of like how do we get more younger people involved, more younger leaders like you, Zeke, involved in these discussions, and bring the energy that you have and the perspective you have, because I think there's a lot of just status quo that people can get really comfortable with, and leadership in this city can get really comfortable with, and I think we were able to maybe challenge that a little bit over the last 4 months, just given how disruptive things have been. But I think we need to kind of extend that beyond, just how we're dealing with the pandemic.
Yeah. We have a few minutes here, but I want to ask this. What are 2 takeaways that you guys want to give out to anyone watching this at a later time? What are 2 major takeaways you want to give out for someone say, this is what I want you to hear, this is what I want you to know from this conversation? McClain, you can go ahead.
Sure. I mean, just that it's a long game. And we have to commit ourselves every day, every moment, to equity, and it be forethought and not afterthought. And Ruben mentioned this, but being inclusive, as we design and build the community that we want, and just in all aspects of community building, whether that's placemaking or the different environments that we as a society have to live in. And it's just that, I mean, it's all of our job. We can approach it from different directions and play different parts in it. But whatever our lot is in life, whatever our job is, whatever our position is, equity should be the end game.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was gonna say, about being in the long game. Like, AltCap isn't created overnight. Like, a career isn't created overnight. Getting that experience, you can't take McClain's experience and just have that overnight. Like, that, it just takes time. And I think understanding that and recognizing that there's having a specific kind of experience or expertise, that's what I think people should really focus on it and bring that to the table, and be a part of a solution. But I think this solution isn't going to happen overnight. It's going to take time, and you got to be willing to kind of play that long game, but stay committed to whatever you're pursuing, whatever your passion is.
Yeah, Ruben, I think I heard you mention about young people being part of the conversation. Are there things that you guys are doing to be able to include young people in the conversations or decision making? Because as we all know, they always say young people are the future generation. Are there opportunities for that to happen, or are there plans to have those opportunities for young people?
Yeah, we love having providing internship opportunities at AltCap. I mean, we have an intern or one or two interns pretty much all the time at AltCap, giving people in high school, college, an opportunity to really participate in the work that we do and learn from us. But also we learn from them. I think one of your good friends, the Carolyn Cover, she's been an intern with us for the last 9 months. I mean, she's brilliant. She's been great. So she's contributed so much. We've learned a lot from her, but I think we've given her a great experience. And so anyone else, who's in high school or college and wants to learn about community development finance, or what a CDFI does, or how we bring capital to communities, would love to give them an opportunity to be a part of the AltCap team.
Yeah. McClain?
Young people, to be cliched, our future, thankfully, because I think, new perspectives and a lot of energy is what propels us into being a better society. One thing that I worked on, or that I was charged with on Mayor James's transition team, was rethinking the boards and commissions appointment process. And we increased the diversity in terms of racial and, age-based diversity on boards and commissions under his administration by like over 200%. Wow. And it took, you have to have a young person in your circle who knows other young people. Otherwise, if you're a white dude, you know a lot of other old white dudes. And so we made it our mission to seek out young professionals and to place young professionals on each of the city's boards and commissions, to give them that experience, but also to get that perspective in city decision making. And I think that is valuable to any organization. But there's a lot of opportunities to get involved as a young person, whether it's a political appointment, which is just an application away, or the Centurions program, or the KC Tomorrow program that the Civic Council does, although it's kind of like mid-career. But there are different opportunities that you're either ready for now or that you should set yourself on the course for, to be, you know, a young contributor to our community.
That's awesome. It's been another Fired Up Casey show. I'm honored, and thank you guys for coming on today. It's an honor. And I look forward to being able to work with you guys more in the future, because what you guys are doing are really phenomenal. You guys are helping the community grow. So I'm humble and I've been impressed in being in front of you guys. So thank you for coming on the Fired Up KC show. And, you know, I just hope that you guys keep doing the work you do and stay healthy out there, because it's a crazy time out there. But thank you for coming. But before I go, how can people reach out to you if they want to connect with you guys?
So for me, email McClain.Bryant, McClain.Bryant @gmail.com, or my Facebook on Facebook. And that is just McClain Bryant Macklin.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, check me out, Ruben @alt-cap.org. That's my email, Ruben @alt-cap.org. Our website is www.alt-cap.org. And my personal cell phone, 816-876-8670. Just hit me up if you have any questions, or you're interested in seeing how you can contribute to AltCap, Community Capital Fund, or Equity Squared.
Awesome. Thank you guys for that. Again, thank you guys for coming on. It's been another Fired Up KC show. See you guys on the other side. Stay fired.
Thanks, Zeke.
Thank you.
Take care.